Alright, let's be real for a second. There are things men secretly want in the bedroom that they'll never say out loud. Not because they don't trust you, not because they don't love you, but because they're afraid of being judged, misunderstood, or flat out rejected. But here's the truth. If you knew what was actually going on in his head, what he wishes you'd do without him having to ask, it would completely change the game. So if you're ready to tap into the part of him he keeps hidden, even from himself, lean in, because this is where the real connection begins. There's something electric that happens when a woman flips the script and takes control in the bedroom, and while most men might never openly admit it, they secretly fantasize about being dominated, even just a little. It's not about overpowering them or turning the dynamic upside down completely. It's about giving them a break from always having to lead, from always being the one to initiate, to plan, to direct. There's a hidden thrill in the unexpected, in that moment when she pushes him down, climbs on top, and lets him know she's in charge tonight. It's not just about physical movement. It's the confidence, the look in her eyes, the subtle command in her voice, the way she teases him and then denies him exactly what he wants until she decides it's time. When a woman takes control, it tells him she knows what she wants and she's not afraid to go after it. That's incredibly sexy. There's something deeply primal about being handled, restrained, or told what to do, especially when it comes from a woman who usually plays the nice girl role. That duality, the sweet exterior with a fierce, commanding energy underneath, drives him crazy. He won't say it, but in his head, he's waiting for that moment when she takes the lead without asking permission, when she turns the lights down, pushes him against the wall, whispers something filthy in his ear, and suddenly becomes the one who calls the shots. Even something as simple as pinning his hands down, directing where his mouth should go, or telling him exactly how to touch her. These are moments that feel unforgettable because they catch him off guard in the best possible way. The truth is, dominance isn't just about physical positioning. It's about energy, presence, and a willingness to play with power, to tease, to surprise, to control the pace and hold eye contact while doing it. Men may not vocalize this desire because they worry it'll make them seem weak or less masculine, but deep down, they crave to see that fire, that authority in you that says, "Tonight, I'm in control." It doesn't have to be rough, though it can be. It just needs to be intentional. It's about creating a moment where he doesn't have to think, doesn't have to guide, doesn't have to lead. He can just surrender to the experience because you've taken over with full confidence and sensual command. That moment, when he feels wanted, desired, and slightly overpowered by your passion, is the moment he won't stop thinking about long after it's over. There's a hidden craving inside almost every man for a woman who knows how to use her words to turn him on, and not just in a casual, playful way, but in a raw, confident, unapologetic way that cuts straight to his desire. Dirty talk, when done right, isn't just about being vulgar or saying something explicit for shock value. It's about creating a mental picture, feeding the fantasy, making him feel like you're fully present and completely unfiltered in your desire for him. Most men won't say they want this because they're afraid it'll make them look needy or insecure. Or worse, they're afraid you'll judge them for wanting something so primal. But the truth is, when a woman leans in close, lowers her voice, and says something bold and unexpected in the heat of the moment, it can shatter his self-control in the most intoxicating way. It could be as simple as telling him what you want him to do to you, what you're imagining while he touches you, or what you plan to do to him next. What matters is that it feels real, raw, and personal. Confidence is key here. It's not about being a porn star. It's about owning your sexuality, showing him that you're not just physically into it, but mentally, emotionally, and verbally in sync with the moment. There's something deeply arousing to a man when the woman he's with doesn't just moan passively, but speaks up, guides the energy, and lets him know exactly how much she's enjoying what's happening. It makes him feel powerful, seen, desired, and validated all at once. It also opens a door for him to express himself more freely, to match your energy and meet you at that bold level of honesty. He may never say it, but when you whisper in his ear during foreplay, when you gasp his name with intention, when you describe what you want in graphic detail without shame or hesitation, you become unforgettable to him. It tells him you're not just going through the motions, you're fully immersed, you're invested, and you're not afraid to take things to a deeper level of intimacy and expression. That kind of dirty talk, delivered with confidence and authenticity, builds anticipation like nothing else and creates a connection that goes far beyond just physical pleasure. Even hours after it's over, he'll be replaying those words in his mind, remembering how you made him feel like the only man alive in that moment, all because you were brave enough to speak your desire instead of keeping it silent. Every man carries a hidden fantasy or two, sometimes wild, sometimes surprisingly tender, but almost always locked away behind a wall of fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear that if he says the wrong thing, it'll change how you see him forever. These fantasies can range from the soft thrill of being teased for hours to the more taboo elements of roleplay, dominance, submission, or being taken out of his comfort zone in a way that excites rather than shames. But because society tells men to be strong, steady, and unemotional, they often internalize the belief that their desires are dangerous or inappropriate to share out loud. So they keep it quiet, hoping one day the right woman will read their body language, catch the subtle hints, and open the door without needing a verbal invitation. What makes it powerful is not just the act itself, it's the unspoken trust you show when you suggest something daring, playful, or unconventional. It's in the way you say, "Let's try something new," or the moment you dress a certain way, whisper a fantasy scenario into his ear, or create a safe space where no idea is too weird or off limits. That's when he begins to feel like he can reveal the parts of himself he normally hides. Even if he doesn't fully voice it, he will respond with a fire and passion you may not have seen before. The truth is, men want to feel accepted and wanted in their fantasies just as much as women do. It's not just about sex, it's about being truly seen. When a woman steps into that fantasy space with curiosity, with openness, with no trace of shame, she gives him a permission he's been waiting for his whole life. And it doesn't have to be extreme or outlandish to be meaningful. Sometimes it's simply pretending to be strangers in a hotel room, or letting him be the one who gets tied up instead of always being the strong one. It's letting go of rules and routines, and entering a space where everything is driven by imagination, mutual consent, and trust. That level of emotional safety paired with sexual boldness can bond two people in a way that nothing else can. It tells him you're not just his lover, but his co-conspirator in pleasure, someone who can meet him in the shadows of his mind, and still look him in the eyes afterward with love, not judgment. And even if he never says the words, that silent gratitude he feels for you taking the lead in this area, for unlocking a part of him he thought he'd always have to keep hidden, becomes a deeper kind of connection he'll never forget. There's a kind of magic that happens when a woman initiates intimacy without being prompted, without needing a green light, without waiting for the right moment. And while most men might never say it directly, they deeply crave this kind of unexpected, unprovoked desire. It tells them they are wanted, not just as the initiators of sex, but as the object of lust themselves, the person who turns you on so much you couldn't wait any longer. Men have been conditioned to be the ones who always make the first move, to read the signs, to break the silence, and while many accept that role, they also quietly long for a partner who flips the dynamic and takes charge without hesitation. When you reach out to him while he's focused on something else, or when you climb into his lap, or whisper something naughty in his ear when he least expects it, it lights him up from the inside out, not just physically, but emotionally, because it makes him feel chosen, craved, and pursued. It's not about dominance, and it's not about trying to prove something. It's about spontaneity and showing that your desire for him doesn't require conditions or setup, that it's alive, hungry, and always just beneath the surface. That's the kind of energy that makes a man feel deeply connected to a woman, because it's not performative, it's real. When you lean in and start kissing him without asking, or reach under the table when no one's watching, or text him in the middle of the day telling him exactly what you want to do later that night, it sends a clear message that you're not just passively enjoying his attention, you're actively hungry for him too. It shakes him out of autopilot and drops him into a place where attraction feels raw and exciting again, because so much of his life is about being in control, and the moment you take that from him, just a little, He gets to experience what it feels like to be the one swept off his feet. That doesn't just excite him, it creates memories, moments that stand out, stories he replays in his head long after they've passed. And the beautiful part is, it doesn't take grand gestures. Sometimes it's the subtle things. The way you look at him when he walks out of the shower, the way your hand lingers a little longer on his chest, the way you wake him up in the middle of the night, turning his sleep into something far more thrilling. Those are the things that stick with him, not because they were expected or part of a routine, but because they came from a place of genuine heat and affection. He won't always have the words to say how much it means to be desired like that, but the truth is, it taps into a very vulnerable part of him, the part that wants to feel wanted for exactly who he is, in moments he never saw coming. Men may not show it outwardly, but their need for affirmation, appreciation, and emotional validation is just as deep as anyone else's, especially when it comes to their performance and physical presence in the bedroom. Society often paints men as self-assured, sexually confident beings who don't need reassurance, but the truth is, many men are silently questioning whether they're satisfying you, whether you're attracted to them, whether you like how they touch you, or if you find their body desirable. They may never ask these questions out loud because vulnerability can be difficult, especially in a space where they feel expected to perform without faltering. But deep down, they crave recognition, not just for what they're doing, but for how they're making you feel. So when you moan with intention, look into his eyes and tell him how good he feels, or run your hands over his body and say you love the way he looks, you're not just feeding his ego, you're affirming his deepest insecurities in a way that makes him feel seen and safe. Complimenting him during intimacy, whether it's about the way he kisses, the way he moves, the way he holds you, or the way he tastes, isn't superficial, it's powerful. It creates a mental feedback loop where he doesn't just think you're enjoying it, he knows you are, because you're telling him with your voice, your words, and your tone. That kind of real-time validation amps up his confidence and lets him relax into the experience, which only makes the chemistry stronger. And it's not just about sex, it's about his body too. So many men silently compare themselves to unrealistic ideals and feel pressure to look a certain way, to have a perfect physique or never show insecurity. When you touch him in places he's shy about, kiss his stomach, compliment his chest, or tell him how sexy his back looks when he's above you, you melt away years of quiet self-doubt with just a few honest, passionate words. The praise doesn't have to be poetic or over the top, it just has to be real, and ideally spontaneous. That moment when you whisper, "I love when you do that," or when you bite your lip and say, "You feel so good inside me," sticks in his memory in a way no silent appreciation ever could. It tells him he's not just satisfying you, he's captivating you. And that's a feeling he'll never get tired of chasing. Even something as simple as telling him you love the way he smells, or how turned on you get just from hearing his voice, can leave him glowing inside. Because it goes beyond lust, it becomes a connection. The more you affirm him with your words, the more freedom he'll feel to explore with you, to open up to his own vulnerability, to give more of himself without fear of being judged or falling short. And while he may act tough or unaffected on the outside, every word of praise you give him, especially when it's laced with desire, becomes a quiet assurance that he's enough, that he's wanted, that he's doing something right in a world that rarely tells men that out loud. There's an unspoken side of many men that craves a touch rougher, a bit more primal, something that pulls him out of his head and into his instincts. And while he might never say it out loud, he secretly wants you to surprise him by going there. It's not about pain or aggression. It's about intensity, about feeling like you're so consumed by the moment that you can't help yourself. And that raw passion is something he finds wildly attractive. Light scratches on his back, firm grips on his hair, deep kisses that leave no space for hesitation. These aren't just physical sensations. They're emotional signals that you're not holding back, that you're all in, that you want him so badly you don't care about being too soft or too delicate. For a man who spends much of his life being in control, carrying responsibility, and putting up emotional walls, that kind of physical intensity gives him a rare space to let go, to feel claimed, to be reminded that his body, his presence, and his energy drive you wild. And that does something powerful to his psyche. When you take your nails down his back and leave just enough of a sting to make him feel it hours later, it's not about hurting him. It's about marking a moment, about leaving a trace of your desire. When you grip his neck while kissing him or pull him closer like you can't get enough, you give him permission to let go of the pressure to be gentle or restrained and instead just be real, present, and animalistic with you. That kind of touch says, "I see your strength and I want all of it." It tells him he doesn't have to tiptoe around you or worry about being too much. You want the full version of him, the fire, the heat, the edge that he usually keeps buried. And even if he won't admit it, that releases something in him that he's been holding back. It doesn't have to be every time, and it doesn't mean you have to flip the energy entirely. It just means you meet him in a space that's unfiltered and charged, where your bodies speak a language words can't reach. Even something as subtle as grabbing his jaw during a kiss, biting his lip, or pushing him against a surface changes the entire tone of intimacy. It becomes less about choreography and more about instinct, about following a rhythm that isn't rehearsed but felt. These moments often stay with him far longer than soft touches and slow caresses because they're unexpected, vivid, and visceral. It's in these moments he feels your hunger, your confidence, your freedom. And that's a kind of eroticism that cuts deeper than technique or routine. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require planning or permission, just the boldness to lean into what you're truly feeling in the moment. And when you do, when you break the mold and get a little rougher than expected, you send a message louder than any words could, that you're not afraid to match his intensity, to meet him in that wild space, and to make him feel like the only man who brings that kind of heat out of you. And that, more than anything, becomes an experience he doesn't just enjoy, but deeply craves again and again. In the end, what men secretly want in bed isn't just about technique or wild fantasies. It's about feeling desired, understood, and accepted in ways they're often too afraid to ask for. They crave surprise, intensity, validation, and a partner who isn't afraid to explore, to lead, to speak her mind, and to match their hunger with her own. When you take control, talk dirty, unlock his hidden fantasies, initiate without hesitation, praise him with real passion, and add just the right edge of roughness, you're not just giving him pleasure, you're giving him permission to be fully himself with you. That kind of intimacy goes beyond sex. It builds trust, heightens emotional connection, and creates moments he will never forget, because they speak to the parts of him he usually keeps silent. And when you reach those hidden corners of his desire without judgment, he'll feel something far deeper than lust. He'll feel safe, wanted, and completely consumed by you.